broadcasting from Park Avenue in New York City. Brought to you by Global Wealth Office at Nest Seekers International and Classique Moderne. This is Peace and Good Wealth. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Peace and Good Wealth. Good afternoon, Colin. Good afternoon, Perry. Good afternoon, Kenneth. And the Peace and Good Wealth audience out there in the world. We are back, and we have been on sabbatical for a while since we've been traveling, but we are back with a vengeance, and we have a series of very good podcasts to release in the next few weeks, starting off with today's very, very special guest, as is our focus on Peace and Good Wealth. We would like to be able to explore ideas and concepts, not just on the financial part of our existence, but also our spiritual part of our existence. And today we have Laura McCann, who is the founder of Aura Sanctuary, an immersive wellness experience that explores energy, frequency, and the invisible architecture of our well-being. Through her work in aura therapy, she helps people see, measure, and transform the energetic fields that surround them, the colors, the frequencies, and vibrations that reflect who we are beneath what we show. Her work blends the mystical with the measurable, using scent, light, and resonance to restore harmony between body, mind, and energy. And today, we will explore what it means to live in alignment with your frequency, how our auras change with emotion and intention, and why true peace may not be the absence of noise, but the presence of coherence. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Loy. That was such a great introduction. All the words that I love.
Well, it's also a tongue twister.
Yes.
But let's start with I think people have heard of aura. People have heard of chakra. People have heard of energies and fields, etc. But I think most people probably have a very superficial understanding of what it means.
Yes.
I think part of it is because there are people who profess to be practitioners who have misled people in what it is, and there are people who are very deeply spiritual and have taken it to a much more profound level, studying in India or in China or in Tibet, etc., and bringing it in. But what is today's? Let's explore today's idea of what aura is, and update people. What exactly is an aura?
So the aura is the vibrational field around your body. It is mostly unseen. Someone who may be psychic or intuitive may be able to catch color in the field, but it's a frequency. And there's different frequencies around you. Usually most auras extend about to your fingertips if you put your hand out. Someone with a very big energy, often celebrities or big personalities, can have a bigger aura than that. People who are having mental, emotional, things going on, the aura can be smaller. But most people have a healthy aura that's about that big. It goes all the way around you. So often we think of it like what we see in the pictures, where it's just this arc around your head. In truth, it goes around your body and it's around you in a three-dimensional way, like you're in an egg. And what that is how you're vibing, right? Like what is coming through you energetically, and other people can feel it and sense it. Now, what is creating that? It's your experience inside your body, and often we think of the aura as separate from anything else. Actually, the chakras are what's creating that vibrational field. So there's 7 chakras. First one is the root. That's kind of the pelvic area. The belly is the sacral. The solar plexus is the gut. Then we have the heart, the throat, third eye, and crown. So the world I live in, where I do 3D data-driven aura readings, which is very different than historically, which, by the way, my first aura reading was in New York in Chinatown. Most people, that might have been what they had as well. It's a photo, and it captures color in your aura field. The difference is with the 3D data-driven aura reading, you're not taking a picture. you're scanning. So you put your hand on a scanner and it brings in biometric information. And this information supplies data to a software program that then shows you all the data sets. And the data sets look like color on the top, the left, the right, the bottom, and the center. And each color represents something energetically. So we like to think of the colors of the aura as a personality, and these different attributes are who you are and how you're being in the world. And so there's many versions, and it's a really interesting way to look at people. I don't know what your aura is. We're going to have to find out.
So, with I think that's a really great description of someone who doesn't know what aura is and what they're expecting to see when you do an aura reading. What it really reminds me of is art. When two types of art. I think one is the visual art, where you have paintings of historic either people or saints, for instance. And they're always shown with a sort of like aura, around them. And artists would interpret that in different colors, which is, really interesting. So the concept, maybe even subconsciously, has always been there, throughout the ages. And I also, when you were talking about auras and how some celebrities or politicians or prominent people have this aura, think of presence. When somebody walks in the room, somebody with really great energy can fill the room with that energy. And somebody who doesn't have as well, even if you're the only person on stage, it's not seen as clearly as somebody who has that sort of like energy or which we call charisma on the one end. So what does it mean when you say balancing or your aura and the sort of like that radiant? What are the universal markers of a good aura or peaceful aura or a balanced aura?
Yeah, great question. So an aura, if you look at it, again, let's use the imagery I'm using as kind of a lexicon. It may or may not be so, it really, if you're looking at it, because you can't see it, right? So we're going to use some imagery. An aura should be full and dense. The energy should be everywhere within it, and there shouldn't be areas that have holes, let's call it. Less density. The less density means that the energy isn't going everywhere. So when it's big, it's usually full, and the color is very bright and very, dense, and it goes all the way three-dimensional. If it has areas with no density, something's going on. You use the word coherence. That's the word that I use. So there's something going on. So what usually is going on? We look at the chakras in the software that we use. We actually see your chakras on a chart, 1 through 9. 4 is considered to be a good number, average. Anything above a 4, big. Anything below a 4, low. But there's also another measure that's a coherence measure where you can have a high or low chakra and a little bar that's zigzaggy in it. It means that even though you're using that chakra a certain way, there's something stuck there. Okay, so I'll give you an example. We're speaking. If I have a very big throat chakra, it's probably easier for me to communicate and express myself. Maybe if I'm an introvert, I may have a lower throat chakra, harder to speak. So would that show up in my aura? Maybe not. But the color of my aura would probably show me as somebody who's a little bit more internal, maybe less extroverted, things like that. So we compensate for all the things that we're doing. And the word balance to me is an interesting word. I like to use the word alignment instead of balance, because balance feels a little bit like cosmopolitan. It's like I have a goal, and if I'm not balanced, I'm not enough. Like we don't want to use any language of not enough. What we're looking for is alignment, and alignment to you is not alignment for me. So not knowing you very long or well, I would say for you, you're bigger energy than most. You probably have very high chakras that are very big in certain areas because of what you do and how you live in the world. And for you, being in alignment would look different than somebody else. Like I recently did the aura reading of a massage therapist we're working with, and her throat was very high. It was a 9. But sometimes having a very high throat chakra means you talk too much. you can't listen, you're expressing because you're not like, so she had
Overcompensating.
ADHD, right? So like it showed up in her throat chakra. So it was very interesting because you knew her, you didn't know anything about her, but you immediately sensed that something was out of alignment, and it expressed as a quality or a characteristic, a personality thing, right?
So is alignment more about alignment with your purpose, perhaps, or your existence? Because certain, we call it in knowledge, we call it if you're leaning toward it's, you're a math major or you're a science major or you're an art major, etc. Right? You're aligned to that. You don't know why necessarily, but you have a purpose.
Yeah.
And so if you go against, or deviate from that purpose a little bit, you're a little bit out of alignment. So that's part of it,
Yes.
right? So a question for you though, in terms of, are there colors that indicate certain things? And are there good colors and bad colors?
Yeah, so there are no bad colors, but what you described is actually you're very intuitive. I guarantee you have a very big third eye. The way we express in the color personality of the aura is often informed by what we're doing and not who we are. That in that respect, it's a journey. So you can be many different things, and your aura can change, although it doesn't change dramatically. You still have sort of characteristics that are something you come in with, let's say, like you expressed something, a preference. So the colors that most people are yellow, blue, and green. These are the colors of teachers, social workers, therapists, people who are helping, nurses. So that kind of energy. So if you met them, you would be like, oh yeah, totally get that. The yellow is the mental energy, which they use to solve problems. It makes them very ambitious. They want to get things done. The green is the social, compassionate sort of, they want to be in the world and express themselves. And the blue is the communication, the clarity of being able to get, to communicate to get things done. So like for a nurse, that makes complete sense, right? You can have two colors, yellow and green. I am typically yellow and green. The blue doesn't come in the aura, but I have a big throat chakra. The reason why is because I'm very this or that. I don't bridge with my throat. I'm just like all mental, all heart, right? The colors move from sort of like the reds and oranges into the yellows and greens, the yellows and blues and greens, and you go into the blues and indigos, all the way into the violets. Most people, when they see this range of color, they're like, I want to be violet. Well, being violet or indigo is a very specific personality, highly spiritual, a little bit more energy in the upper chakras, somebody who's very highly intuitive and is kind of in a different place. So we've done 10,000 aura readings to date in our business, and we've done little babies, and we've done young people all the way to old people. And what I've seen is often you can see the history of the energy, and it starts with certain colors. And as you scan, it changes, and you show what you are now. And so you can see somebody might have gone through an evolution. So that's really an interesting part of the story is where were you and where are you now? And often we'll say to somebody, you're these colors, but it showed earlier that you had more of that. What's going on? Oh, I changed my career. Oh, I retired. Oh, I was an accountant. Now I'm a yoga teacher. Those are the kinds of things that can change your aura. The aura that's the most, I'll say, controversial is anything with red in it. Now, in our system, this is what the colors mean. In an aura photo, it might not mean the same thing. Red is usually a sign of trauma that's being worked through. So often we have people who've been in the military who have PTSD. We've had people who may have some mental illness, or they've grown up in a very stressful, energetic sort of environment, and the red is where they contain that energy and it hasn't left the aura field. How you would sense somebody like that is they have a very strong, maybe slightly aggressive energy. We do pet aura readings. The reason we figured out what was going on with those red auras is probably most rescue pets, dogs, have red in the aura. And that's kind of how we started to figure it out. I think we did about 1,000 aura readings of people before we found a red person. And it just so happened that we learned the story, and the story was a story where there had been physical trauma to the body and it was still in the body. The chakras looked great, but the aura held the story of the trauma.
And are people aware how many people are aware before versus after about how their aura, projects, their state of alignment to who they are, their purpose, and where they're going?
I think there's more and more written about it in the media, although I still think that aura reading as a whole is still an entertainment thing. And also some people think of it as very spiritual or woo-woo, and so it doesn't cross over. Let's say if you're a very person of faith, I've often have people say, oh, I'm a person of faith. This is not for me. And it's like, okay, so they see it as a spiritual thing. It's just energy. It's just another thing you can measure, like your heart rate. Now, it does have a spiritual piece in the sense that if you're talking about your upper chakras, your third eye and your crown, that's a very interesting thing that we've learned. And you probably will understand this. So your third eye is your intuition. It's where you tap into the part of yourself that is all-knowing. It's the pineal gland or pineal gland. And so when it's open and stimulated, we have the ability to kind of be clairvoyant, see things, attract things. I call it sort of like the magic. The crown is a very different energy. I describe it more like the Buddha energy. It's a letting go, a release. It's tapping into something higher and bigger than yourself. And so it's the I am consciousness field. That ties in with spirituality, right? We think of that as the divine or God or whatever. In fact, it's just different energy frequency that allows you to tap into something that is very powerful. And that is why I think to some people that's a little scary.
Well, it always amazes me that I'm very religious. I was raised and am practicing, Catholic. I see there's always the religion and the science are like debates.
Right.
But I've never bought into this entire debate because I can believe in energy, and I can believe in spirit, and I can believe in a God, and I can believe in all of these things, which I don't think are necessarily contradictory. We are all made out of energy, as science tells us, right? We know from the atoms to the, we are born of the stars. It's not, and the stars are, if you believe in a creation and a God was created by that God, why not use the one that he's created? So all of that, for me, ties in. I don't think there's any contradiction. The only contradiction I see is that when we think that we know better than anybody else, the reality is that we don't know. And that's a great thing about art and religion and spirituality is that we can all agree that we don't know everything. And the more you know, the less likely you're going to say that I'm certain of a certain belief or understanding. We are very limited individuals. One of the things I heard very recently, which I thought made a lot of sense, was that that artificial intelligence can never replace people, because while we can create supercomputers, we are supercomputers on a very, very infinite level, because everything that we are, from the cells and the atoms and how we're created and the entire universe, etc., has already gone through the process of changes and it's an alignment that surpasses our understanding, which is the only thing that AI could really understand, right? So we don't know how most of our energies work. How would AI? So I think this is an interesting thing, because we are talking about if human beings are no longer as important in the way we do things, and AI replaces us, what happens to sort of like that aura? In an office, for instance, right? We talk about the energy of the office. We talk about the energy of community, which are a coming together of multiple energies that create this sense of community, that create this sense of world that we live in. But on another level, so do emotional shifts or emotional stages necessarily impact your aura on the short term or on the long term?
Yes, it would impact the chakras more so. The aura, again, think of it as more of a macro, and the chakras are the micro.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's say you're depressed, your heart chakra may be low. You're grieving, your heart chakra is low. You have a lot of lack of self-worth, I'm not enough. It shows up in your heart chakra. Let's say you're moving and destabilized, traveling too much, sleeping in different beds. Family is important and you don't see them. Then your root chakra might be low because you're not grounded. Most of us have a pattern that we make. I call it our default chakras. And that is really where we live from. And only when we're working on our interior, the soul, prayer, gratitude, meditation, yoga, hiking, anything that gets us back into the state that we want to be in when we're not. Those are the things that allow us to adjust and help the chakras get into alignment. So the goal is always to know yourself, right? And to do that introspection and to find where you have leverage on your overall, energetic being so that you can be your best self. And typically what we see, because we've done so many aura readings, is that people who do yoga, meditation, prayer do tend to have higher chakras, bigger auras. The color is going to be very much specific to what you do in life. So like, let's say, and we had to guess because we had to figure out enough colors to say, like, what is like a litigation attorney look like? Your guess would be like, oh, it might be yellow because they're very mental, and it might be this or that. And well, purple and blue is typical because they have to be so intuitive and on their feet and have to tap in to know how to make decisions. Like an ER doctor, also those colors. But let's say you're talking about a real estate agent. I'm pretty sure most real estate agents are probably, no, they may have orange. Yeah, orange and green if they're doing it from the actors. People that are often in the creative arts who have had trauma and do things, they have orange, green, yellow. But yellow, green, and blue is going to be like your typical everyday person who's going through life and making it happen. And if they move into some of these other colors, there's like smaller percentages, but there's a reason why, which is why it's so fascinating.
Well, so as I understand it, to me, it's beginning to look like there is no, for instance, if you went to a doctor and said there's something wrong with you, you don't feel well, somewhere in your body, they say, okay, you should have a CT scan or an X-ray or an MRI, and they look at this image and they say, okay, well, there's this or whatever it is. They can see some things there that you won't see. To me, it's beginning to feel like, look, we already understand the idea of self-care, right? Where you take what is important to you, and practice certain habits or certain exercises that will allow you to remember who you are as a person, whether it's exercising or, as you said, hiking or reading or writing, or singing or acting or music or art, whatever it is, that brings you back to remembering who you are, which I guess in your term is alignment, right? I think a lot of people forget as we get older who we are and and what we like, because we tend to conform to a lot of different things that either society tells us that we should be liking or doing, and now, which gets back to the present issues that we have, social media, right? How does social media impact our chakras? And the way because aura is sort of like the effect of the chakras. So how is social media you think affecting how we get aligned or misaligned with ourselves?
It's a good question. I would say it depends on the who. Because we know some of the data around what it does to dopamine, serotonin, all of these things, right? So like I might love going on Pinterest, and for me that's like a total high, and I'm pretend shopping and making my boards. But a teenager could be going on it and be bullied, right? So I think it's a tool, and what comes through the tool is often the issue, not the tool itself. So as much as social media is just a conduit, it's also the person receiving and how they receive that. Now, what it does do for sure is it plays with your nervous system in a way that may not be ideal for any of us, because it does affect the attention span, and it does do this thing where it changes how you feel very quickly and not maybe knowingly. In that case, I'd say it's like any other addiction. Use it with caution and choose when to use it and choose how to use it. And if you can align it with what you need it to be for you, that's the best way to use it.
Well, it's very, I think the great thing about podcasts is that you listen to whatever you'd like to listen to. And, assuming that you have already a predisposition on what things you like, you only listen to, necessarily to those things. Whereas other social media, Instagram, or Twitter or X, the algorithm tends to reward things that are very controversial and that will incite some sort of emotion. What I've learned is, if I like the ones that I actually do not like, I get the other side of the algorithm, which feeds me a better understanding. It actually helps me balance what I'm reading. So now it's reversed, right? It's not just feeding me what I want to hear, which is great, because I think now it's I'm more able to be objective about things. It doesn't sort of make me feel that I'm going to the one world. So for instance, if I'm here, all I see is real estate because that's the business I'm in. The moment I leave and I go to Italy, the algorithm changes, and now you start to see other things, food and and architecture and all of that stuff. So now, what in terms of chakras, is there a maintenance program or a? I think that, it's. There's a really interesting term that it says it's almost like a house cleaning, to make sure that you are, for people who, look at it as self-care, that you're always, in tune with, or at least aligned with, or at least working to be aligned with yourself.
Yes. So the protocol is know thyself. Obviously, let's say you don't have an aura reading and a chakra reading, so you don't know where you're starting. There's ways to self-assess. But it would a little bit be like if I asked you to take your blood pressure and you were like, I think it's this. Well, you probably really need to know how to take your blood pressure. So data is great. If you can find somebody who has a data-driven aura reading that can tell you exactly where you are. Why that would be interesting is because often we evaluate ourselves and give ourselves a lower grade than we deserve. Many people are like, oh, I think I'm low here. And then they find out they're not low here. They're low somewhere else. But guess what? That thing is what's causing them to feel that. So it's a little bit like we need the language. But in general, ask yourself when you feel stress and anxiety where you hold it in your body. So like if you got an email from a client and they were like not happy about something, do you feel it in your belly? Do you feel it in your neck and throat? Do you feel it in your heart? That's usually an indication of an Achilles heel, a chakra that isn't doing a great job at protecting itself and is kind of taking on things that feel like, disruptive. Now, what to do is breathe through it and connect the chakras one to the other, because when the energy pools here of that stress and anxiety, if you leave it there too long, it starts to create a pattern of I store it here. That's when you start having the issues with your digestion or the issues with your bowel or all the things where we know we have these things that often go wrong. What are they from? Held energy that hasn't moved. Just a visualization of moving it. Breath work is number one, which is why my brand Aura Therapy, which is where we do aura readings, our retail stores. Aura Therapy is the brand that is at the Aura Sanctuary here at the pop-up in New York that we have. We use aromatherapy. So aromatherapy is essential oils. And when you take a breath and you smell things that have specific kinds of chemical constituents that make you feel things, it's a great way of rewiring the brain and reconnecting this mind-body connection with scent. So the limbic brain is a very powerful tool to help you get back into state. And again, of course, prayer, meditation, gratitude, many of those things are going to help you get back into alignment. Often because they also have a breathwork component. But your breath is really like the vacuum cleaner, right? It goes in and it just moves everything. It gets the dust out of the corners and it helps you go back into state. Now, if you have some bad patterns and there's work to be done, then you do some bigger work, and you can do energy work. You can work with healers. You can do a little bit more like focus on that specific chakra. And the chakras love it when you notice them, acknowledge them, and invite them in for the healing. It's often as simple as that. You know? Instead of thinking like, I have to solve this mentally, I'm going to solve it energetically. And that's really 99% of the healing.
So, which goes to exactly what I was going to ask you. You said that the direct language between the conscious and the energetic is the scent, right? And so can a fragrance be used to correct or elevate your, the frequency? How do you design a scent or identify a scent that, for someone specific?
Yeah.
For somebody very specific.
I'm going to distinguish when you say scent, for me, what scent is, because a lot of people think of scent as perfume. Perfume is 100% chemicals and petrochemicals. It is not scent. I mean, you can get a feeling of, I like the way it smells. It's physically doing nothing to your body other than maybe your brain lights up a little bit. On the contrary, it's doing a lot of damage, and we don't usually admit this because we all love our beautiful fragrances, is that it's not good for your lungs and it's not good for your endocrine system. And everything you use from your body wash all the way through a candle on your desk is going to have a chemical fragrance. So when I say fragrance, I am talking about pure essential oils that are plant-based. And so as such, they are frequency. They have a frequency and they're energetic. Petroleum products have zero frequency, zero energetic. So scent, that kind of scent, natural scent, it could be smelling a piece of parsley or cilantro. Lavender,
right.
Lemon.
Mint. Yep.
They all have specific chemical constituents that do things. They help with anxiety. They help with inflammation. They can help with resetting the brain. I think there was a study recently on rose. Women who wore rose oil actually had higher heart-centric energy and felt more happy than women who didn't. So like that's what I'm talking about, and that definitely works.
Is there a gender difference between men and women? Because there's always, there's men's perfumes and men's scent, and there's women's scent. Even if they're even in essential oils, when you go there, some people will tell you, oh no, that's more for women. It's not for men. Is there such a thing?
I used to think that until I had lots of people who were not looking at gender that way, who told me that I had the bias because I was orienting the men to the woodsy scents and this and that. And I remember I had a couple in the store, and two gentlemen, and I was like, well, this is very floral, and they were like, we love floral, and I was like, okay, well, that's my bias, right? Because the floral might remind you of your grandmother or your mother because she wore something floral.
It reminds me of a grade school teacher.
Yeah.
Not a necessary. That's a red aura.
A red aura. Well, bringing the panic. Yeah. So scent is very personal. One of the things I'll tell you that's funny is a lot of people there's like the controversial one oil. I wonder if you can guess it. Like it's like the one oil and scent that everybody has either like love it or they hate it. Think of the 70s and the 60s. Okay, patchouli.
Oh yeah, but I actually,
Patchouli.
the reason I didn't say it is I happen to really like it.
See, and a lot of people hate it. Well, the reason they hate it is because they're used to like that cheap patchouli that was in things. That's fake and it smells kind of gross. But it's a little bit like cilantro, right? Some people say that it tastes great. I love it. Some people say it tastes like soap. Different scents. People smell them differently. Now, here's an interesting thing that we learned during COVID when everybody was masked and people were losing their scent. And also something that we've done through doing so many aura readings is when we do an aura reading, the post-aura reading, when we see the people's chakras, we have them do a scent session where we have them smell every one of our chakra oils, and they're all calibrated to help with the balance. They usually do not like the ones where they're low. So what is that? Energy attracts energy. I don't like what I don't have. I think of it like spinach. If I don't like the taste of spinach and I need iron, let's say, I might need to supplement because I'm not getting it from foods that are like spinach. It's the same thing. And people have things they don't like. Often it's because energetically that is just not how they connect. Now, can you rewild your nose to get there? Absolutely. So people who had no scent after COVID, what did they tell them to do? Keep smelling, keep smelling, keep smelling, and eventually your nose will come back. When you don't like something and you force yourself, let's say, to use floral heart chakra oil, after your heart chakra comes in, you're going to really like it.
Well, but I think that's a very interesting thing because it goes back to science. I was born with so many allergies. I was allergic to almost everything except water and rice, I think. And so there was no way for me to survive unless I get little by little accustomed to and immune, to all of these things that trigger the allergies. And so the doctor's advice was for me to be introduced to them. So I had shots, I had, little by little, and now I'm not allergic to those things anymore. And so there is a way we could, either call it physiological, biological, energy, et cetera, that allows us to get rewired, into getting like, I can't even imagine a world without chocolate and nuts and citrus and flowers and all of that stuff, and I love it. I love it. I live by it today, but I wasn't, allowed to have that before. So I think that's an interesting thing, with scent as well. Now, are there, let's talk about, how does this change, knowing this, having this information? How does this change? How could this change someone who would like to say, I've tried everything. I know what self-care is, or, I meditate. I use essential oils. I go through my baths, and I have lavender and whatever it is. But it doesn't seem to be, coming together. Where does, how do we put this information together to help us?
So, little plug. I have a book. It just came out. It's called
Please say.
It's called Aura Therapy: A Guide to Adoring Yourself, Your Aura, and Your Chakras. And it's really about that idea that when you understand the difference between self-care and self-love and what I call adoration, and adoration is a very different thing. Adoration is when you are at the center and it's all about you giving yourself what you need and choosing yourself, and putting yourself on, let's say, a higher pedestal. That is where the pedal meets the metal, or the metal meets the pedal. That is where you get the elevation of all of this. And the people that you've met, I'm sure, in life who are confident, wealthy, at peace, ease, grace, all the stuff. They are people who have tapped into this part where they understand who they are and they really love themselves. And they can say it unabashedly. It's not popular to say you love yourself. So I like to also say I adore myself, because that is taking it to also the level of ritual. So that is the other piece of this. Everything, a lot of people, especially men, love to use the word discipline. But discipline in culture comes with you can't have this, you can't have that, or there's something you're pushing through. I prefer to use the word ritual, because a ritual is similar. It's a way to do the thing, but you're doing it in a way that honors all the things. And for each person, that'll be what they think. For you, it might be, I get up, I need tea, I take a shower, I read, I need to pray, and then I hit my email. For me, it might mean I need a bath and I need essential oils. And so there's no prescribed version of it except what you found for you that brings you to your best self.
Right. That works. Now we've talked about, quite a bit about self-care and self-awareness. Now let's talk about how does this how does this impact our relationship with others? What if others, if you're working with somebody whose chakra is completely unaligned, and you're there, and you have, and the energies are just not exactly, we call it toxic,
Yes.
toxic environments. Is there something we can do, or what can we do?
Yeah. So I love that question. I think this software that we use is a great HR tool. You have to obviously, if HR said we don't agree with you using this, we use all kinds of other things to measure people's personalities, right? So I think when you know where somebody's personality is coming from and you understand it's actually an energetic, not a expression of something that they've chosen, it's actually who they are and how they are, you can have more compassion for them and you can meet them halfway there. However, there will be people, our narcissists, are people who have those types of personalities, energy vampires, who you can't really change them. We know this. This is more in the realm of psychology. I would tell you that energetically, they don't present any differently than anybody else. So it is not happening in the aura and it is not happening in the chakras. If you are a narcissist, you may have a bigger charismatic personality. That's where it's showing up. So really where this happens is having an understanding that people are energetic and that they may not know that they're doing the thing because it's not a mental construct or a personality construct. It's clearly energetic.
I see. So, so having said that, somebody asked us today, can you do an aura reading through Zoom?
You might be able to with a psychic who can maybe feel your presence, although it wouldn't be the same data set that this is. Unfortunately, you need to scan. It would be like trying to do an MRI and do it on Zoom.
I see. So we talked about aromatherapy. Is there such a, how about, is there such a thing as chrome therapy, right? Where the colors, you're exposed to different colors and it's supposed to change your energy. Does that work? Because I've seen some spas that have those.
Yes. So light has a frequency. So light can have a big impact on you. And again, the same colors are sort of the same colors in the spectrum as you see in the chakras, which is why often chakras are expressed with red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, magenta, like that. The lights have that same effect on you. Sound as well. So then if you do a sound bath, right? If you ever gone to one of those where they do sound, that has energy and frequency as well.
The singing bowls.
Singing bowls, correct. So all of these things are energetic and have frequency, and you are susceptible to all of them. I am, like you were describing food, I'm very susceptible to sound. Someone once came in with sound bowls and did a sound thing, and I had a kundalini awakening that I wasn't even aware that I was having because the sound opened up all this energy and I got too open. So yeah, some of us have different parts of our senses that pick up things, and so think of everything that are your senses, your sight, nose, taste. But now add your energetic field has a sense too, and you want to understand what you're putting in it.
My niece actually, she's very sensitive to anything that resembles a metal. Whether it's a bell or a bowl, etc. It's like the vibration is overwhelming for her.
Yes.
No matter how low the sound is, it's not that. It's sort of like the
it's because she's probably open in something where it comes in and it plays with that energy and it disrupts it, and it's like so. This is a question you may have for me. I don't know. Part of the health and wellness of the aura is what I'll call protection. Typically what we're protecting is the chakras, and we're doing that with the aura. So that bigger, healthier aura is there to help the chakras and so that they can thrive. The one that is highly susceptible to everything is the heart chakra. And it's the center. So when it's disrupted, it affects the lower, upper. And what happens with the heart is often when we feel sadness, pain, grief, hurt, we're vulnerable, and it's like we bring in the pain and then we don't know how to get rid of it.
The defenses are down.
Yeah, and so then all of a sudden it's like your immune system. This is the thing that affects your chakra immune system. So what you always want to do is you want to have the biggest aura you can have, and then if you are working on bringing up a chakra, especially the heart, add protection. So you're going to send the aura out. You're going to make it stronger. You're going to disinvite anything that's coming in. And so this is just something I don't think we're taught. I really wish this was a thing our parents taught us or they taught us in school is how to protect our energy from energy that's coming in that isn't what we want. It can be our own energy that isn't what we want, but often it's coming from something like predatory
External,
outside of ourselves. So like I have a stepdaughter who can't watch a lot of programs on TV because they're too violent. And it affects how she feels. So she'll watch Disney Channel, right? Because even though she's an adult, right?
That's the same thing with me. I can't read comments on social media. It it affects me. But is there is there such a thing as most of the time we're not aware of what's going on because we're very busy. Is there an indication that where your chakras are really not aligned, and you must do something about it?
Yeah, often you feel burned out, you feel tired, a lack of clarity. Each chakra has signals that are things that are low. You feel ungrounded, unstable, you have no energy, you feel like you're not in your body, root chakra. Sacral chakra is an interesting one. Often it shows up first as like you're not really enjoying life or having fun. You don't want to play. You don't want to have like a sensual, emotional experience with yourself or others. You shut that down and it has an effect on digestion often. Solar plexus, this one, especially in American culture, seems like the one that gets to take the show. Always big, always running the show, but too big is not good because too big means you're adrenal and you're coming from things in a way that's very acidic. And so you want kind of to control that, like go-getter energy. Heart, we talked about. Throat, often something's blocked. You need to say something. It's stuck in there. You can't say it. Often there's somebody shutting you down who won't listen, or you just don't feel able to say what you need to say. In work environments, that one's a big one because often people feel like they're not allowed to say stuff. It'll get them in trouble. Third eye is going to be you don't feel like you have clarity and you're not able to make decisions very clearly. And the crown usually is a little less detectable. It's really going to feel a little bit like what's in it for me. I'm not sure. I'm not connected to something more powerful. And that's why people who are people of faith or people who connect to that higher energy, they sometimes seem to have like something in their back pocket that gets them through all this bad stuff, right? Because this is a place where they can go and it's there for them. And those of us who don't have that, we're like, where is it?
Well, that's which leads us to the last couple of questions. One is peace. Is there a frequency for a peace?
I think there is. I think if you research it, we could ChatGPT that. There's probably a frequency, and it's going to be in these higher chakras. But I think when you take words like that, and to me, I'm getting this download. My third eye is going like, peace is probably a combination of different frequencies together, right? Whereas maybe wealth is another frequency together. Because like for you, when you experience that word and you think of peace, you definitely feel it kind of up here. But I think there's heart in it too. And there's grounding in it too, right?
Or peace could be like a harmony of all of the chakras, right?
Yeah.
It's like where everything is aligned would be peace. But I argue with peace and good wealth that, good wealth actually means you can have wealth but not have peace. And so,
Absolutely.
So, the wealth that you'd want is where everything is aligned, not just interior, but also what's happening on the exterior, as well. So to you, what is good wealth through the lens of energy and spirit?
I love that. I think, so good wealth, it's wealth of the mind, body, soul. You want the trifecta because like you said, it's not one or the other. The body is the health of the body. The body can do the things it needs to do, wants to do, and it's not blocked by things that are health probably related. But it also could be anything from, stamina to inflammation, pleasure, being able to feel things. The mind, obviously the ability to think, solve problems, use the mental energy to give you direction, but also to guide you in a way that isn't out of control, right? And then the soul part, I think, is a very personal thing. And it's really like, where do you get a sense of why you're here and who you are and what is that for you? Because then you can follow whatever beliefs you want to follow that take you to that journey, right? So that would be what I would call the wealth. And then if you're doing that, does financial wealth manifest? Very often it does.
It's a product. It's always
It's
a product.
byproduct
right,
of that.
right.
Yeah.
And
Solving that. Yeah.
Exactly. And on that note, thank you so much, Laura McCann, for a very enlightening and energetic, shall we say, podcast today. And on behalf of the Global Wealth Office at Seekers International, this is Loy Carlos wishing you peace and goodbye.